generally no one cold calls because of the burnout rate, and it's tiresome. But if you have one person doing that for 8 hours a day, they make X amount of calls. We said, hey, X amount of calls with good sales skills yields X amount of leads, and then we convert. So then we said, hey, let's just break that up between 5 to 7 people, and it becomes this race. Let's see how good at calling we can do today between 9 and 9:30 and 3:30 and 4, and let's see what we can get.
This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Benmont Locker. What's going on, Benmont?
Brian, how are you, buddy?
I can't complain. How you doing?
Good, from the other side of the PA state where it's nice and chilly this time of the year. So,
yeah, it's crazy, man. We got bitter winters.
Yeah, we're in the 20s today, and everything was frosty. My nose froze walking into the gym this morning to start my day, so it's cleared out my sinuses, and I was ready to roll bright and early.
Right. Yeah, at least we get to go out of town next week. Go out to nice warm weather.
Yep, I'll take it. I'll take a few days in warm weather.
Right. Okay, so Benmont, for everyone listening, give them a little bit of background on what you do in your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in the primarily the residential real estate investing space. We're based out of central PA. We service 9 counties in this market here. We have a market in Ohio that's several counties in central Ohio, and doing some business in New York and a little bit of virtual, but we're primarily focused on residential, boots on the ground, physical acquisitions, conducting real estate in that fashion. So that's kind of our geography and footprint, doing a little over 400 deals a year, trending to pace, wholesale, a lot of turnkey and fix and flip stuff, and a little bit of new construction as well. So we got our fingers in about every little pond that we can.
Okay, yeah, good. And you guys are crushing it. And I was really excited to have you on here too, because I see some of your back end numbers, and you guys have really good KPIs as well. Like a lot of people on the generation side, you're actually taking them to close, booking appointments, things like that, which I think a lot of people lack. So it's going to be good to see how you're doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we've spent, I think, non-market bearing. We've spent a lot of time, and through our company's experience, not all to my credit, obviously, has been around for 17 years, but we've spent a lot of time in the past couple of years. We've always been physical, in-person appointments. We found better conversion there. Every time we had the opportunity, we get in front of somebody. So there's a couple things like at the higher level where we always underqualify leads. Right. We'll take the opportunity. We have capacity. We'll consider that a training call, role playing for an acquisition agent, even if it's not the most motivated seller. Like, we want to get in front of people because we know that motivation is not always disclosed, on the first sales call or from an inside sales agent. So we've focused heavily on that aspect of things, of communicating with the right people and getting in front of the right people as much as we possibly can. And that's where we found our best success in, contract acquisitions.
Yeah. Now, how are you determining who the right people are? Because you figure you got a big funnel, all the people come in, some are motivated, some people have their house listed on the market and they're asking too much and can't sell it and fill out a form online or whatever. Like, how are you taking them so people can spend their time doing what they're supposed to, not tire kicking all the time?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I wish that we built our business with that in mind in the forefront to start. But we basically have taken any sales role inside our organization, and we put everyone into a pool where we call it our business development center. And inside of there, we do prospecting for acquisitions and dispositions, prospecting for inbound and outbound marketing, and then facilitating all of our inbound leads as well. So all of our people are trained, and we've trained weekly, daily, on language skills, communication. So there's this constant foundational training. But I think once their skills are honed, where we found the greatest success then is prioritizing who that we talk to, right? I think the most simple analogy would be that if you got 100 leads, 10 go through and they're 10 easy deals, right? 10 people tell you that they have no interest, so they disqualify themselves. And naturally, we gravitate to doing that business where it goes through and it's easy. We celebrate 10 deals, and 10 people said pound sand. It's the other 90 or 80. And then you're talking about 80% of your leads. Like, how do you communicate with them, right? There's only so many records in the market. We're not in a huge MSA. So we essentially are communicating with a high percentage of people who are likely to sell their home. So that means that we don't need more leads or more contacts. We need to communicate better with the people at the right time, with the right messaging for all of those people, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, how are you determining what messaging in the right times, and like, how are you determining all that?
Yeah, so that starts with a little bit of like prioritization and stacking of data to see if we can extract any consistencies. So we'll stack lists of data together to see if we find commonalities and people showing up on multiple different data sets or something like that. Or even further, so if it isn't that robust of a procedure, like when people give us feedback, and for everyone in a CRM, right, you got a lead that comes in, you don't convert it, you want to follow up with them, so you put them on like a drip sequence, right? Naturally, it's just like, okay, we're gonna nurture them, they're hot or whatever they are, right? And that deploys a standard generic message to that person, and then we hope that email that we send once a week or once a month and a text message here and there, like generally people are hopeful that works. We found that wasn't the case at all, and we found that it required us fact finding those hurdles, those sales objections on a call. We had to then take that information and be strategic with what people were telling us, and then build a plan to communicate with them on their terms, right? So it wasn't like we're just saying, hey, here's follow up. So, right, an instance of that would be, right, it's the most simplest form. Somebody wanted to go to college and they were going to sell their house when the kids moved. That doesn't mean put them up on a hot follow-up and treat them the same as an estate or a divorce or probate or something like that, right? And we found that really getting granular with how we communicate and follow up with people, that we could curate people through our pipeline in a more efficient way. So we always want people moving. We don't want people just to be in a hot bucket stuck there, because then it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And now you don't know really how do you say everyone's hot, or how do you say everyone's on follow-up? You know what I mean? So we started to segment that out and get really, really granular.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with a lot of people. Just because your list just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger if you don't segment it, and it's like too many people there. It's too overwhelming.
Correct. You don't know who to talk to. And then you have sales guys, inside salespeople that come in and they either have tons of tasks, and to them it just says, call this person, call this person, call this person. And then it becomes a blanket sales pitch to that person. And right, your list is, right, Betty, who's got an estate. It's, John, who's retiring and downsizing. It's all these people, and we treat them the same. And really, that's not fair to a seller to expect that somebody's like, oh, okay, like you totally missed the mark, but maybe I'll sell you my house anyway. Might happen. We might get lucky, but that's unlikely. So, right, in politics, people are very polarizing. They either want to gain the vote or not gain the vote. And that's kind of where we are. We want to know that they're either converting now, and we'll put a lot of energy on it, or we'll strategically communicate with helping them navigate their way through the pipeline. And we want to know if they're not going to sell us their house over a period of time, we want to start pushing them the other way. It doesn't mean that we ever mark them dead and lost or closed. We will always communicate with people for eternity. We have drip sequences that go forever. But we don't want our guys spending the same amount of time and energy communicating with someone who's very unlikely to sell us their house as someone who has a tax sale coming up in 4 days that we can salvage. So that we start to put people into buckets. Currently, we manage over 22 different segments and phases of where we want people to live inside of our CRM in that pipeline.
Yeah, that's interesting too. So you're saying even say you get a lead in, and the first lead manager is talking to that person, they're making notes in their head. Okay, here are some of the pain points, things like that. They might not be ready now. They're ready in the future, and they're going through a divorce. So you would put them in a specific bucket.
Yep.
That says, hey, probably selling in a future divorce, and specifically send them like tailored messages versus someone in pre-foreclosure or tax lien, stuff like that.
Yep. 100%. And it can be delicate, but it can be direct, because at that point they've disclosed that information to us. And it could be, right, so-and-so is going through a divorce, and instead of cold prospecting to that person saying, hey, we know divorces can be tough, right, that messaging looks different. Now we've created rapport, we've contacted them, and they said, hey, check back in 3 months, see how it's going, after the divorce, we want to sell the house. And it could say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, right, just wanted to see how you guys were making progress. You told us to check in. We know that you're navigating tough times right now. If there's anything we can do to support you, we're always here. So it becomes very custom tailored. And again, because it reminds you of the initial conversations we had with them, it's on their time frame and frequency. It's not forceful, because the last thing you want to do is call somebody going through a divorce 3 days later with 6 cold calls and just hope that, right, like you're not going to win that battle. So we've learned that communicating with people in the right form, like we just discussed time, but the form of communication is also important. So like if people send text leads or social media leads, responding in the type of format that they like has also been super successful for us. So if you get somebody that gravitates towards technology more so, like it's unlikely they're going to respond to an unknown number when you call them. And then you think that that's not a converted lead as well. So it's really about the psychology of connecting with people, and then building out those segments inside of our business development center and our CRM that allows people to be comfortable with how we communicate and respond to them.
Yeah, and that's interesting you bring that up with the means of how you're communicating, because you're right. Like, people can call my cell phone all day long, they will never get me. But if someone shoots me a text message, you're going to have a high likelihood of getting me. But if I'm a lead, you call my number and you're never going to get me. You're going to think it's someone put bad information in, but really you're trying to get a hold of me the wrong way.
Yeah. Yep. And that's right. That's what people will say about marketing channels, which is a different conversation. But right, cold calling, if you cold called a data set and you texted a data set, you're going to find that people will answer one and or not the other. And you're like, well, we called all those people. Why didn't we get those deals? But like, there's different consumer behaviors inside of those data sets that people are just naturally going to respond to or not. Like, again, you and I personally, I think you just said, like, I don't love being cold called. I'm sure there's a service, a product, or someone that could cold call and help me with something. I just don't like the delivery of that information. If someone texted me that and just said, hey man, like we're doing home refis at 2% well below industry average, and I wanted a home refi, I would read it, I would process it on my time frame and maybe respond, or hey, tell me more, schedule a call. But like if they just cold call me or like, hey, you looking for a refi? No, like natural behaviors. No, it's right. We're putting people in a position to respond. And generally when people don't have enough information, the response is negative, or they put up a little bit of a barrier. And then it's a tough battle right out of the gates for you.
Right. And are you able to mark that like in your CRM and things like that? Hey, preferred means communication.
Yeah, we always find out how people want to be communicated with, the time of day they like to be communicated with. So, we really try to customize how and what's best for the seller, because right at the end of the day, like if we service their needs, it's most likely going to be successful for us. So what that does then is we actually prioritize our inside sales team's tasks, or lead managers, whatever the common lingo would be. And we prioritize those first by the bucket that they're in. So right, like in the morning when that comes in, like there would be new lead, no contact is always number one priority. And then it would go to 2, right, which could be like opportunities that are hot, or it could come back to 3 leads that need rescheduled. So it ping pongs around, because it's not just linear or sequential from top to the bottom of the funnel. So we create standard daily work where they start with the highest priority, and then within those tasks, it'll say, call so-and-so, text so-and-so at what time. And it really creates just their schedule for the day of who they specifically should be communicating with, and then how. So right, it's the timing, the messaging, and then the delivery vehicle of that messaging as well. And that's done through text, call, or email, that we can break those 3 segments down into.
How'd you come up with all this? Like, because it just didn't pop in your head one time. I'm sure it's a lot of trial by error, but like, how did you come up with this system that you guys are using now?
Yeah, so obviously our president, Eric Brewer, is extensively invested into the industry and always seeking innovative ways to do things. But I think collectively as a team, what we have found was that inside sales or lead managers have traditionally been people who field inbound leads. Right. So at one point in time, we had 1 to 2 people who are lead managers who just waited for a web form to come in or the phone to ring. That was like a role, right? And then they were to schedule an appointment. Then we had a team of virtual assistants who did outbound cold calling. And that was its own thing. And then there were acquisition agents who would get scheduled. And what we found was that some of those activities didn't translate to good success for us. So then we said, hey, we hate cold calling because of this experience. Again, it turned out that we didn't like cold calling because of the experience we were providing for people, and then the results weren't great. So we started saying like, hey, like what is it about cold calling that's good, right? Like I think there is a niche for people to be communicated with via phone that works. So what happens then is generally skilled salespeople don't like doing that. So we came up and we said, hey, like what if we just incentivize people because it's a great revenue generating activity, and we did it in sprints. So we'll block out 30 to 60 minute sprints and have them do it twice a day. So all of a sudden we started pulling all of these sales functions together that we started delegating to other people because of just people didn't love doing them, but they're really sales, right? As soon as someone answers a cold call, what is it? Is that a VA admin call? Like it becomes a sales call, right?
Right.
So it's like, why wouldn't sales guys do it? And then it was like, how do we get them so, monetarily incentivized? And it's a very team collaborative environment where they do it for short windows throughout the day and they sprint through that. Same thing with texting. We said, hey, it's not great, but it's not great because we had somebody doing it who didn't know the local market. Somebody would say that they passed away and their natural response was like, okay, how many windows does it have? Right? Or when was the roof replaced? And it wasn't that custom experience. So we took anything that becomes a sales function, we dumped it into this business development center, and we trained the heck out of people to understand what, why, and how. And we built compensation plans around that because they're really the first points of contact for any revenue in our organization. They become the lifeline of our organization. To have these people understand, to work on people's needs and actually solving problems or providing solutions, that everything becomes essentially a sales call to some extent. So we started pulling all of that back into like a pool. And then we just started delegating out and getting rid of the stuff that didn't work because it was taking their time up, and then the guys would get frustrated, right? So if we beta test things, they don't work over a period of time, we'll scrap them. We may come back to them, but we're not going to leave that in their standard daily work of things to do because it's not productive. Team morale goes down, productivity goes down, we're wasting time. So we continue to craft and massage and manage what these guys do on a day-to-day basis, in and out. And like they have time blocks to go play basketball for 15 minutes as long as they don't miss a call, so that they can go outside and shoot some hoops, and they're competitive, and everyone up there is athletic and they love it, right? But at the end of the day, their work is prioritized for them, and we generally focus on trying to give them things that they enjoy, that they understand and they know how to get results from, so that they feel accomplished and successful up there.
You know what? That's pretty interesting too, because cold calling sucks. Like I've cold called a lot. It's not a fun thing. And, doing that for 8 hours a day would really suck. So it's interesting you say it's like, okay, we'll break it into bite-sized things so it's manageable. Like, because if you cold call all day long, you're just going to get beat up because you're hearing no all day long.
Correct.
So that's interesting. It's like, okay, yeah, you do this for half an hour a day or break it into two things. Then it's manageable for the guys, and then they get to do all the other stuff that brings it back up.
And they've got great balance. Yeah, so their day is pretty robust, and it consists of a lot of different activities, but it's a mix of things that provide success and worth for those guys. Because like you said, generally no one cold calls because of the burnout rate, and it's tiresome. But if you have one person doing that for 8 hours a day, they make X amount of calls. We said, hey, X amount of calls with good sales skills yields X amount of leads, and then we convert. So then we said, hey, let's just break that up between 5 to 7 people, and it becomes this race. Let's see how good at calling we can do today between 9 and 9:30 and 3:30 and 4, and let's see what we can get. Same thing with text. We deploy a ton of texts, and then it's like, let's launch all those out in the morning, and let's manage and field the responses as people get off for smoke breaks, lunch breaks, and get out of work for the day. So again, it wasn't like one person that needed to manage and do all of that. We have 7 people actively and collectively working on communication so that we have quick response rates. We deploy messages early in the day so that we have ample opportunity to manage those through the rest of the day when we have coverage till 8 p.m. So we kind of just broke down everything in very bite-sized chunks that converts and has good results.
Yeah, and now you guys have different people that manage the leads and acquisitions, right?
Correct.
Now,
yeah.
One thing, because I know most investors I talk with, or I don't want to say most of them, but most of the newer investors, they're the same person doing it, and then they try to scale up, and then they try to outsource the lead management to somewhere for $3 an hour, which that's a crucial time in the lead. How'd you guys transition to that, and what do you have going on there, and what do you see?
The hierarchy of who does what up there, and how we have inside sales and then acquisition sales. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, explain first, how the hierarchy is, what you have there, and then what the benefits and what you've seen happen once you started breaking it out that way.
Yeah, so I think there's generally 2 things that we've witnessed over a period of time. One is salespeople hate follow-up and not closing new deals, which is somewhat false. I'm a detail-oriented operations guy, so I despise that logic. But at the end of the day, there's some validity to that. So what we did the kind of the same assessment there. Where's the highest and best use of salespeople? It's closing deals. So I think what happens then is if you have that giant pool of follow-up, And it's going to be the same for like when you go to an appointment and you don't close a deal that becomes follow-up, we'll just call it, right? Like then you say, hey, acquisition agent Brian, you're responsible for all your follow-up. But there's really deals in there that aren't going to convert, or they're not going to convert now, right? So then you've got a sales guy working on low income producing activities, and you have really high expectations for them. And you're saying, hey, you got to get this stuff done. You know, what's going on with your leads? And what happens if you already went to the appointment, you know, the motivation was low. What happens when I continue to tell you to communicate with that person and work them? You're just going to be like, Ben, like, what is going on, man? Like, this sucks, right? Like, I'm sitting at my desk. I want to be a sales guy on the field. So there's a balance there of ensuring that they do the right things. And we found that creating these 22 plus buckets to get people into, there's only a small segment of people that we found that our acquisition agents convert well and that are likely to convert within a short time frame. And that's like post-appointment, no contract, hot follow-up. So it'll be the hottest version of that. So they're really cuspy. Our acquisition agents will own that. Or any deal in negotiation that's like basically like, right, we're going back. Is it price? Is it time frame? Whatever it is. They live inside those two segments, or they're on new appointments only. Everything else becomes an inside sales function because we have more capacity, more time, more staff and help in there to continue to nurture and curate those people upstream or downstream in those buckets. So our hierarchy is we actually have a chief sales officer that is all skill-based training. We have a acquisitions manager who oversees our acquisition agents. We have 5 acquisition agents that are all boots on the ground inside our main market. And then we have 5 inside sales people that run this business development center. And then there is a manager, a senior lead manager, a senior inside salesperson inside there. That's kind of the go-to for that. So that's the hierarchy and structure.
Yeah, and that's cool too, because each one of those positions is a different it's a totally different personality. You know, so you're right. Like your acquisitions guy following up on those other things, he'll burn out. I got all these calls and they don't answer, stuff like that. Versus if he just has quality appointments all day, he knows how to close sales. The lead manager probably couldn't close the sales as well, but they're cool with the detail-oriented and follow-up. So it's...
Yep. The pace a little bit steadier, more consistent, right? They're just having conversations with people. And we find a high percentage. It's not 50, but it's over 30% of our deals and appointments don't come from new leads created that week. So we live in week segments. So right, if we set 50 appointments a week, we find that around 20 of those come from leads created previously, which means that we're curating and progressing those people out to in between a 30 and 50% of our activity comes from that follow-up in those buckets and those post or continued communication activities. So it's a massive amount of what we've got going on.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Now, I know you didn't really bring it up, and I know you didn't launch it yet, but you're thinking about offering that to others also, right? So they don't have to staff up and learn all this themselves?
Yeah, so we were coining and playing around with some terms of what we were trying to do internally, and we were saying that we were trying to get orderly, right? Just managing our pipeline. So we've been working on a project it's called Orderly, and it's pipeline management, where we are actually going to be handling inside sales, offering this business development center to external people. And there's 2 segments of things that can happen there. One is that people have an appropriate staff and well-trained people, and right, they have the team, but they lack the systems and processes, right? Because it's 2 totally different things. Like we have an ample amount of time invested into building out Salesforce. It's fully custom. So all of those action plans that we discussed to apply to these instances reside inside there. So we can either offer a service where people can use our CRM, basically license out everything that we have from a systems and process and technology standpoint and use their team, or the service where we'll run everything for you. And our sales floor, we just continue to expand. We know the capacity of a lead manager and what they can service. So every time we hit near that 70% of that threshold, we just start training and grooming another person through that program. It's 90 days for us to really get somebody up to speed. So we have 2 people coming out of that now, joining our team, and we had 1 guy just go into that. So we'll be at 8 people that run this business development center. And if somebody didn't want anything to do with it, we become appointment setters for you. We handle all your inbound leads, outbound marketing. We can do texting, calling, facilitation of web forms, social media, inbound leads, anything that's inbound or outbound based. And our goal is to qualify, help organize, get orderly, and set appointments for people. So we're close there now. We have 2 clients we're doing that for right now, and just making sure we've worked out all the bugs, and then we'll roll that out here probably the first of the year.
That's pretty solid. It's a lot too, because so you're saying you technically have 3 different things you can offer there, right? Number 1, people can get access to your CRM and processes.
Yep.
Number 2, you can run their leads for them in the processes. And then number 3, you can just literally run it all and just book them appointments to show up on. Like
Correct.
You can even get them the lead, set up texting, cold calling, things like that, and then they just pay X amount. And hey, it's like, hey Brian, tomorrow at 3:00 we got someone you need to show up for.
Yep, we built out all the automations for people's calendars and everything. So it was inspired by when we started doing satellite markets that we were like facilitating business in. So we had to figure it out for ourselves. Our hesitation was, how good can we do running inside sales in a market we don't have a ton of experience in? But we have some training activities where people get up to speed with the market. And then essentially we have become equally as successful. There's been no change that we are non-market based doing inside sales in those external markets. And we've been as far as California, through New York, Ohio, and some other places in Florida. So we spread out all the way around to ensure that there was no roadblocks for our team, just geographically based. But yeah, if somebody said, hey, listen, we're going to connect all of our inbound marketing channels to here. You guys are going to handle the calls, the texts, the emails, the phones. Tell me where to go and show me what information I can know about that and what time the appointment's set up, and we handle all of that.
Dude, that's huge. Now, I know it's early, but if somebody wanted to reach out and talk about that and see if it's a fit, what do they do? They call you up, or I don't even know if you have a website for it or anything.
Yeah, we don't yet. We will. I would be glad to gather feedback and challenge anything that we're doing now as a point of contact on that directly. Like I said, we've been testing it and beating it up for several months. We're probably 6 months in now over a couple trial partners. So I think we have got a really well built out process of everything going on there. But yeah, if anyone was interested in that, where they wanted to be hands off for lead management or inside sales, use a full service is what we call that. So self-service is when they would just use our CRM with their staff. Full service is when it's our staff, our meeting structure, our training, and then our business hours, because we run extended hours of live service from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. for people. And then we customize all of those things that we just described today for your brand, specifically messaging, all of that stuff. We facilitate as your brand for you on your behalf and run inside sales and lead management for you. So my personal information, email and a call would be best until that gets over inundated. We'll figure something out. But for now, welcome any ideas and ways to get better.
Yeah, what number? What's a good number?
Yeah, so my direct number would be 717-779-4034. And my email, if that's easier, or people can just text and let me know they're interested, or my email is Benmont, BNMONT, at ifhbuyers.com, like Integrity First Home Buyers, Benmont at ifhbuyers.com. Then they can just let us know that interested in lead management services of some sort, and figure it out from there.
Okay, that's cool. What type of investor do you envision being a really good fit for that, and which type wouldn't be?
Really good question. So what we've tried to do is allow this to be scalable for anyone. The baseline, to answer your question, would be that someone 1,200 leads a month or below would be ideal, where we would have no capacity issues or anything like that to scale and onboard. That's where we found the sweet spot, and that's more of like net leads. We can screen through gross leads, but like 1,200 net leads a month, which is pretty substantial. I think there's a lot of people out there who love to find that in their market. That would be like our average sweet spot, I think. And then it could be non-cost beneficial if people were entry level, freshman investors, but that's where maybe the self-service product would be really good for them, because at that point it's basically just like a licensing fee to utilize the CRM, and then they can have their team work in there. Because you figure you're getting the CRM, our 5 lead managers that are well compensated. Like you start adding that up, benefits, bonuses, all of that stuff for people. It probably would cost you 20 to 30 grand a month to have that infrastructure yourself. And it's highly reduced from there. We discuss pricing based upon that a little bit, but it's all sub $10,000 a month that we offer those services at. So we can get people up to speed. We can roll that out and onboard in 72 hours if we have accurate information, and get it rolling really quick. So it's a pretty seamless process.
Okay, cool. So basically seasoned investors, like not guys brand new, they just took a course, guys doing some deals from a couple deals a month up to under 1,200 leads a month.
Yeah. And I think, anybody that has the desire to have that level of support, I would just hate to see 7 people, somebody paying for access to 5 to 8 inside sales people that have very limited lead flow. I can promise that we would have good service for them, for the leads that come in. But right at some point, there's a return financially for somebody just getting into investing or, more of a freshman investor. So would just like to find it fair. And I'm sure we could probably offer some product or service for whomever is seeking. But those are the kind of 2 buckets, self-service or full service.
Okay, cool. And then you guys help people with novations also, right?
We do, yeah. The other segment of that is our education platform that is the Brewer Method, and it's a full encompassed novations training course. And there we offer training through sales modules. There's over 11 sales modules. It's broken down the curriculum. We have a full staff that helps with JV deals, so we can either kind of do it for you or do it with you. Similar approach to lead management we discussed. So if you're just getting into novations and you're a member of that organization, we have resources. We have TC on staff. We have salespeople on staff, operations people on staff that can help guide you through those novations. Or if you just want to jump in, there's a self-guided curriculum that you can roll through. And at the end of that, you get all the documents, the processes, the best practices, the training videos, the sales collateral, all that custom branded to you as well. And in a short time period, you can be up and running, doing novations as well, which is pivotal for this market and the regulations with wholesaling right now. So would highly encourage everyone to figure that out on their own or leverage the course. We've got several hundred people actively working through the course right now with good success. So
yeah, 100%. Now they should go to the website or something, right? Or
that one. That's brewermethod.com. All the information's on there, a bunch of testimonials, sample videos, all kinds of stuff. It's filled with information at Brewer Method, BREWER method.com. And any of the contact forms on there will direct you to our team. I'm not qualified enough to handle all of those and help everyone, but we've got an ample staff there that can help people get into the right place and do a needs analysis to see or answer any questions. A lot of people with novations have questions on legalities, compliance, state regulations, all of that. Generally, we can help everyone work through all of those things and become confident that they can start doing novations, which, again, we highly encourage with this market and the market space right now and the legalities and logistics of what wholesale is. It's kind of become wholesale 2.0 for us. It's just a normal way of doing business. We novate over 50% of our deals at this point in time.
Yeah, it's a crazy market. So anyone listening, I know especially the guys that are scaling quickly, doing everything themselves, hit up Benmont. Just because it could not even cost anything really, because you figure if you increase your closing ratio, like they will probably just pay the fees anyhow. Just by having someone, because I know a lot of investors we deal with, they're scaling quickly, they're growing, and you get real thin, and you only have so much bandwidth. So they already have the systems built, they already spent the money doing it. It's worth a phone call.
Yeah, if you're not converting at 40% of quality leads to appointment and 10% of quality leads to contract, there's area for improvement in either your marketing channels or your conversion through a sales process, systems and processes, whatever that looks like. That's conservative for us. I really push hard. We had a program called 50-10 where 50% of qualified leads convert to appointments and 10% of those convert to contracts. So that's a great pulse check for anyone looking at their own organization to go find those 2 numbers, lead to appointment and lead to contract.
Yeah, I can vouch for this stat. Your stats that I've seen are higher than that.
Yeah, we are annualized, but we play it conservative in case we don't want to let anybody down. We'll over-deliver. We'll equally promise and equally deliver. How's that sound?
It's good. I like it. Hey, well, Benmont, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me. We appreciate the support from you guys and your team out in Western PA, and you've been contributing to our success out this way. So very mutual relationship. Look forward to seeing you in Florida soon.
Good stuff, man. Hey, and everyone, thanks for listening. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. Hey, we'll talk soon.